Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here, and I feel something. I smell something. I taste something. I can sense something. I know something huge is going on behind the scenes, and I know you feel it too. We can see it in all of the evidence that has been pouring out of the proverbial fire hose lately. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a lot of big stuff go down, and I believe we can now finally start connecting some of the dots. You're not going to want to miss this. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing today? James Lane here, and I wanted to talk to you guys today about where we're headed and what is going on. All kinds of crazy stuff has been happening, from the giant cyber Pearl Harbor to the Chinese infiltration, the lists of communist actors that are implanted all throughout our country and the Western world. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard about foreign intelligence agencies now monitoring our elections and having information on hand. Folks, Trump got the DNI report the other day. Things are in motion. The ball is rolling. I don't know exactly what's about to happen, but I can predict, I can think about it, I can strategically make some assumptions, and so can you. So we're going to go through a couple articles here, and we're going to do just that. Before we get into that, do me a favor. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I need that 5-star rating. If you've listened to my podcasts and my different videos and segments before and you know what you're getting, give me that 5-star podcast. I believe I've earned it from you by now. Please give me a comment in there. Write in a review. That helps move the algorithm. It moves us up the rankings, and more patriots get to hear the truth. If you want more brothers and sisters in this fight, if you want more friends and family to wake up to the truth, then do that for me. Same thing on YouTube, same thing on Rumble. Subscribe button, notification bell, comment. We need to get past them cutting all of us conservatives, cutting our distribution and censoring us. For me, I'm grassroots. I don't have big corporate sponsorships. I don't have anything like that. It's all word of mouth. So do me a favor, share. Talk about the American Reveille podcast. Talk about the American Reveille movement. We have to keep waking up our friends and neighbors. Folks, I'm going to read this article to you, and we're going to start. This is from the Epic Times, ladies and gentlemen, by Jack Phillips. Flynn. Foreign intelligence agencies were monitoring the U.S. election, and they are willing to provide the information to Trump. And dare I say that they most likely already have turned that information over to Trump probably weeks ago, ladies and gentlemen. We get the trickle off the back end, all right? So we're going to start reading. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn said he was provided information that foreign intelligence agencies were monitoring the U.S. election on November 3rd and are willing to provide evidence to President Donald Trump. And like I said just now, I believe they already have, folks. Quote, "We have evidence now of foreign countries were watching the attacks. They were watching them happen on our election system, ladies and gentlemen, our election process on the 3rd of November. Flynn told Fox Business on Friday, so we now have that evidence, and we've received that today." He didn't elaborate on what foreign intelligence agencies were involved, how he obtained that information, or the nature of the alleged attacks on the election system, though dare I say, and put my personal opinion in there, I wouldn't be surprised if Israel even had a hand in it. They have a very, very, very advanced team of cyber experts. I would say even hackers. I would say security specialists, all kinds of folks that have the capabilities of checking what's going on, of observing, and that is absolutely possible in the realm of information technology. Let me keep reading here. But the foreign governments, they're willing to provide that directly to the president, Flynn remarked. They're foreign partners, they're allies, they're willing to help us. Now, the Epic Times reached out to the White House and Trump campaign for comment on what Flynn had to say. Flynn had been making reference to the SolarWinds cyber attack that impacted a considerable portion of federal government agencies. Folks, that was literally an attack on our country. That's what that was. They don't call it Cyber Pearl Harbor for a reason. You have to understand how dangerous of times we're in right now. We literally could be at war with China at any moment. They keep saying Russia, Russia, Russia. I get it. But I believe wholeheartedly, professionally and personally, that in time, maybe sooner than later, ladies and gentlemen, China will be revealed as the ultimate enemy. The Hitler, the Adolf Hitler, the Nazi Germany, Xi Jinping, the Nazi Germany, the Adolf Hitler. I've said it a bunch of times now, so it's absolutely clear. Of Asia, ladies and gentlemen, the concentration camps, the re-education camps, the Stalin-like, Hitler-like actions taken against the Uyghurs, taken against their own people, the organ harvesting. We could go on and on and on, but ladies and gentlemen, it is verified. It is true. China is enemy numero uno, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to keep reading. I would say is SolarWinds. It's an entry point into the rest of our entire U.S. critical infrastructure, Flynn added. So everything that touches the United States government, if you enter through this SolarWinds attack, we perceive you have the keys to the vault. That's how serious this is. They have the blueprints to our entire critical infrastructure, our energy grid, our U.S. Treasury, our nuclear stockpile, ladies and gentlemen. This is big business. This is a serious deal. This is an act of war. You have to take me serious there, and you'll see. Earlier this week, the Department of Homeland Security, their cybersecurity agency, warned that the hack presents a risk to the federal government and state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, as well as critical infrastructure entities and the private sector. These hackers compromised agencies, critical infrastructure programs, private sector organizations starting in March 2020 or possibly before that, according to the agency. You're able to rummage around and do damn near anything. So it's a very serious attack. We've known about it for 6 months, as I understand it. Flynn, a retired Army Lieutenant General, added to Lou Dobbs. So when we talk about our election security, Lou, I think this is all part of it because there's a relationship between these SolarWinds attacks, which have basically penetrated our entire infrastructure as well as our election securities. Ladies and gentlemen, this was an attack on the United States. All right. Phase 1, COVID-19. Phase 2, cyber attack. I wonder what phase 3 is, ladies and gentlemen. Flynn noted that there's evidence of foreign influence in the election and this too, adding that the Chinese Communist Party, North Korea, Iran, and Russia are involved. But Flynn said that we're in an information war, which I believe truly, me, personally, James Lane, the American Reveille, we believe that it is an ongoing hot information war. This isn't some cold standoff. Things are happening, all right? Plans are in motion. Actions have been taken and are being taken. They've influenced the election and this too, adding that the Chinese Communist Party, North Korea, Iran, and Russia are involved. All right. Flynn said that we're in an information war. Remember, the main perpetrator is China. The CCP are masters of it. And historically, ladies and gentlemen, we get caught off guard. It always happens. And then we come back and dominate. And we are on the path to domination. Now, we're all sitting here. We're wondering when things are happening. What's happening? Is Trump taking action with the election? Is Trump taking action at all? And I'm starting to believe, folks, that Trump might actually be in the process of setting up the people that need to be set up and draining the swamp, folks. I know you've been waiting for 4 years, and I know that this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but things are just very strange. And I think we need to talk about it, all right? Look at this. Something's brewing. All right. Dan Scavino, that is Trump's personal social media guru, the social media czar from Mr. Trump, the president of the United States. He posted a series of tweets that took place after the meetings yesterday, folks. And these tweets were very interesting. So I'm going to read a little bit of this. I want to show you these pictures. I'll describe these pictures to the people listening, but for the people watching, you'll see them. All right. Dan has been President Trump's social media director since before the 2016 election. He's a trusted and loyal Trump aide. There was much talk today in the news about President Trump's meeting with attorney Sidney Powell. It happened in the Oval Office on Friday. Folks, President Trump discussed naming Powell as a special counsel to investigate massive Democrat voter fraud that took place in the 2020 election. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've been hearing it by now, but I'll repeat it. Abraham Lincoln, he arrested people in the government. He shut down news agencies. What he did during the Civil War and before the Civil War would have been considered unconstitutional by any standards. It was back then. All right. And so Trump may do some stuff that seems crazy and out of this world, but history will reflect back on it positively, just like we see Abraham Lincoln as a hero. Folks, some stuff is going to happen. You need to expect it. All right. If nothing happens and Biden is sworn in on the 20th, I'll eat dog crap and I'll eat my words and I'll become the resistance, I guess. But until then, I'm sticking with my beliefs. All right. I've studied this. I've looked at this. The negative Nancys out there, the naysayers that want to sit around and go, nothing's happening yet and nothing's going to happen and we live in a perpetual world of crap. I'm sorry, man. Maybe you need to take up archery or meditation or something. You need a hobby, but stop being so negative. All right. We have definitive proof that things are happening, and I'm going to continue reading that proof to you. General Flynn had also joined Sidney Powell on Friday. They deployed the U.S. military, was reportedly raised. All right. Well, they were deploying. They were thinking about it. They were talking about deploying the military, but apparently that was squashed. Trump also, by the way, sent out a tweet saying that was fake news. So don't worry about that, though it could be misdirection. You never know. But I wanted to show you these. Here first, right? That was a picture. That's President Trump staring at Lincoln. I believe he posted that I believe they're trolling the left. I really do. I believe they're screwing with the left while simultaneously telling us that things are in motion. Here's Trump staring at Lincoln, and he's contemplating, what would Lincoln do? What kind of challenges? Look at these monumental challenges that I'm up against, but look at the monumental challenges that Lincoln was up against. How do I face this? What do I do? Give me the courage. Give me the strength. Then looking at Churchill, the striking and empowering and imposing personality that Churchill was. What would Churchill do? What strength would Churchill have? Would Churchill tell him to shut his mouth and go forward? We will fight in the hills. We will. Yeah, anyway, Churchill would slap him in the head and say, Trump, fight for Trump and fight for this country, fight for a way of life, fight for God Almighty. Ladies and gentlemen, there's Trump making some decisions. Folks, things are in motion. And I know that a couple of pictures don't really stand as proof. And I mean, we have Trump, like I said, staring at Churchill, black and white photo, very distinctive. You can see his reflection in the picture. All right. His pondering reflection, Trump's reflection. The one on the phone, he looks determined, resolute, ready to strike. Actions are happening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to find out about them. We're going to basically wake up one morning or hear throughout the day that something was going on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and now we're at the culmination of it, or it already happened. That's just how this works when it's at this level. It's not going to play out in front of our eyes. Not all of it. Not all of it. But I want to show you some stuff that I saw that gives me the warm and fuzzy, that makes me feel like I'm on the right path. All right. We saw that Chris Christie turned on Trump. We see all these rhinos turning on Trump, the Mitch McConnells of the world, everything. And we've all been wondering this whole time, why doesn't anything happen to them? You know, of all the people that Trump has fired, Trump hasn't fired Christopher Wray. Why not? Why the hell would he keep a traitor like Christopher Wray on the payroll like that? Unless he's trying to make sure that certain key people are held accountable for certain things, maybe so that he can get information from them, or maybe so he can prosecute them, drain the swamp, if you will. I want to read about this, folks. Exclusive. All right. This is Gateway Pundit from Joe Hoft. All right. Came out today. Exclusive. FBI Director Chris Wray. He's been hiding his connections to a Russian energy company, likely connected to Uranium One. Folks, how sure are you? How sure are you? Ask yourself right now. Close your eyes. Close them. And ask yourself, how sure are you? Ladies and gentlemen, how sure am I that Trump really isn't playing 4D chess and draining the swamp in its entirety? entirety. How sure am I that that's not happening? How sure are you, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know anymore, because you're about to find out. Just watch. Just listen and watch. Folks, FBI Director Chris Wray represented a Russian energy company before he became the FBI Director. Why has the FBI Director kept this a secret? We've uncovered that Christopher Wray has connections to a Russian energy company, and per review of Wray's bio at the firm he represented before coming to the FBI, all right, folks, King and Spalding, Wray represented a Russian energy company. Wray's bio at the King and Spalding was later hidden where this was reported. The Wayback Machine shows Wray's bio as follows. King and Spalding, right here. Look at that smiling, traitorous face. According to his resume, Wray, quote, helped lead the department's efforts to address the wave of corporate fraud scandals. Wow. And restore integrity to U.S. financial markets. Really? We don't know how Wray restored integrity to the markets, but we do know Wray worked on the Enron investigation, and then FBI Director Bob Mueller, and had crooked Andrew Weissman reporting to himself. Wow, folks. These men were instrumental nearly 20 years ago, later running the corrupt Russia collusion investigation. Folks, our FBI director is completely tied to this. Looking back, the corrupt team running the Enron investigation attempted to destroy President Trump the same way they did corporate officials at Enron. Look at that. No wonder he won't act. Sidney Powell reveals Chris Wray was the one to promote terrorist of a prosecutor, Andrew Weissman. That was a big deal the other day. Wray's bio at King and Spalding also states Wray represented a company president in a criminal investigation by Russian authorities. Wray represented the governor of New Jersey in connection with investigations relating to the George Washington Bridge toll lane closings. Folks, this is a lot. A lot of crazy stuff right here. Energy company, governor, New Jersey. We know that Wray and the governor, Chris Christie, right, were good friends, because Christie is who reportedly encouraged President Trump to hire Wray as an FBI director. And we know Chris Christie turned on Trump after his 900-pound ass decided to go get COVID and had a hard time with it because he, doesn't take care of himself. I don't know what to tell you. Look, right there. You're telling me that not wearing a mask is what caused Christie to go to the hospital? Okay. All right, Christie. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie betrayed President Trump. We just said that. We know about it. And for those listening, we are looking at a rotund President Nobody. We are looking at a rotund former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, his right breast gently caressing his snug suit undershirt, his dress shirt, his nice button-up collars, his bursting at the seams, screaming for relief, his breast holding his shirt in place. Okay, I'm done talking about Chris Christie's breast. Anyway, we also know that Wray currently saw no problems with the corrupt 2020 election, which was ran as well as Venezuela or Stalin could ever run an election. This was before the election, and he's done nothing to investigate or arrest any participants in the coup election since. Corrupt FBI Director Chris Wray and now fired CISA Director Chris Krebs produced videos together before the election declaring the 2020 election secure. Folks, this isn't conspiracy. This stuff checks out. Chris Krebs was the guy that was in charge of CISA when the hack got in, when the SolarWinds problem first started, when the Russians or the Chinese or whoever was in our home rooting through our stuff. They're the ones that left the back door open for the foreign enemies. Ladies and gentlemen, they are treasonous swine. Wray is dirty for sure, but he might even be dirtier than we thought. FBI Director Wray represented a company president in a criminal investigation by Russian authorities. We don't currently know which company it was, but we do know that it's been hidden. Let's read The most troubling issue that Wray may face is the fact that his law firm, King & Spalding, they represent Rosneft and Gazprom, two of Russia's largest state-controlled oil companies. Rosneft was prominently mentioned in the now infamous 35-page dossier prepared by former British M16 agent Christopher Steele. You know, the phony dossier. The dossier claims that the CEO of Rosneft, Igor Sechin, offered candidate Donald Trump, through Trump's campaign advisor, Carter Page, a 19% stake in the company in exchange for lifting U.S. sanctions on Russia. The dossier claims that the offer was made in July while Page was in Moscow. Folks, don't you see the connection? Don't you see that everything in the fake dossier connects to the people investigating and using the dossier to screw Trump? All of these folks, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Wray, Krebs, all of these people, they're all related. They all have a stake in it. So the same thing they're doing, remember, they project, they gaslight. They are putting that on somebody else when they themselves are the crooked people. How else couldn't they get caught? Well, if everybody's connected, if everybody's in on the scheme, then everybody has a stake. If you have dirt on me and I have dirt on you, neither of us are going to want to tattle. Because if I tell the authorities and they arrest you, you're going to snitch on me and vice versa. This is a giant conglomerate of assholes that have dirt on each other, so nobody snitches on each other, but they're all connected, and it's coming out, ladies and gentlemen. Rosneft and Rosatom signed a cooperation agreement at St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. The document was signed in the presence of Russian President Vladimir Putin by Rosneft Management Board Chairman Igor Sechin and Rosatom General Director Sergei Kurenko. Folks, remember, Russia and China, they're communist countries. The president, or whatever you want to call them, the king, the czar, the tsar, the emperor, the whatever of the countries, they control the companies. They're communists. So they are aware of everything that's happening. And of course, Rosatom purchased Uranium One, and it is of the Clinton Foundation fame. I'm sure you know all about that. Based on the above, it's highly likely that Christopher Wray is linked to the owner of Uranium One or Uranium One itself while working in the private sector. Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of connections. We have a lot of things coming out, and you can't drain the swamp without having dirt on people, folks. I know it sounds crazy. I know that people are losing hope, but there's no need to lose hope. Trump said the other month, remember? Trump said, don't you dare ever bet against me. I'm not betting against our leader. You shouldn't either. We're still in this fight. We're digital soldiers. We're holding the line. We're fighting like a flint. We are fighting like Americans. And I expect you to be patriots. Folks, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you love what we do, head over to the American Reveille website. It's as simple, if you're on a regular computer, as going to American Reveille, REVEILLE.com. We're going to have a lot of updates coming soon and even a new website. You can see the latest video here. You can read our latest articles, all kinds of great stuff. But do me a favor, if you have a little bit extra and you want to help us get more patriots to listen, to wake up, to receive our message, please head over to the donate tab right here, and you can click this donate button and give anything that you can spare. If you can't, that's fine too. All I expect and appreciate is you just spreading the message. Our distribution's been cut. We are censored. We have no advertisements. We have no path besides you guys leaving ratings, reviews, and comments and passing this around word of mouth. All right, word of mouth. And if you're into the Bitcoin thing, I have a Bitcoin link right there. So folks, remember, you're not required to donate, but we do greatly appreciate it. It goes to updating our equipment and paying for ways to get the message out. So folks, thank you again so much for listening. We got one more video coming today, possibly two more, and a podcast in the morning, some articles, things like that. Great stuff coming. Guys, have an awesome Sunday. Thanks. Bye.